Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a card combining a bunch of Lawn Fawn sets. I'm using Forest Feast, Berry Happy Holidays, For You Dear, Happy Harvest, and Bicycle Built for You. I'll also be using the Creekside collection from One Canoe 2. It's a great outdoorsy themed paper pad. So as you can probably guess from the images that I stamped out, I'm going to be doing a teddy bear picnic theme. This is a theme that I've been wanting to do on a card for a super long time. I've just been waiting for the right images to be released so that I could pull this whole idea in my head together, and I'm super excited to bring this to you guys today. So I've stamped out my images in some Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'm going to be coloring with Copic markers today. So I've got those caps lined up for you on the side. The first combination of colors I'll be using is in the E40s. I'll be using E40, E43, E44, and E47, and I'm going to be coloring 2 of the bears with this combination. I'm starting with the E43. I didn't want to start with my darkest because I wasn't quite sure where I wanted my shadows to go on this guy since part of his body is cut off. So I went with my second to lightest color to kind of just lay those in for myself. And once I was happy with those, I went over those with the E44 to deepen those up, and now I'm going up to the E47 to just darken everything. Then I'm going to work myself all the way back down using the E44 again to kind of just blend those lines out a bit and carry that color where I want my shadows to be. And then I'm leaving a whole bunch of room for the lighter 2 colors because I want to make sure that there's a nice highlight. So I'm using the E43 to kind of blend out his tummy and most of his arms, and I'm going to work in a circle around his face to kind of keep the lightest portion, the most highlighted portion on his snout, which would kind of stick out, so it would be the lightest portion that would be where the sun would hit. So then I'm just going to go in with the E40 and really work that and blend everything nice and well. Then I'm going to work on my backwards bear, and I'm going to work on his shadows first as well. So his shadows are going to be a little bit different because he's facing away. So I want to make sure that there is some darkness at the back of his neck where his body would cast a shadow forward that way. And then also towards the bottom of his feet because the sun would be kind of shining on his rump and the top of his head, so that's going to be where the lighter portion is on him. So I'm just adding those shadows in, also making sure to add a little bit around his tail so that it'll have some nice definition. And then just blending out with those lighter 2 colors, making sure to save the bit on the top for the lightest color, that E40. So as I was choosing my colors for the bears, I was kind of mapping out where I was going to have them go on the card, so I wouldn't have 2 of the same color bear right next to each other. Rather, they're going to be across from each other. So the 2 brown bears will be on either side of the front and back of the stump table, and then the other 2 bears are going to be black bears, and they'll be on the left and the right. While I have these shades out, I'm going to go ahead and color in the stem of my mushroom. So I just added the shadow right under the mushroom cap with the E47, and then blended out a bit with the E44, and then brought that down with the E43, and then finished with the E40 in the bottom corner for a highlight. Now that I kind of figured out how I wanted to color these guys using the bears from For You Dear, I can color in the bears from Berry Happy Holiday in the same way, just with different shades. So I'm going to be using the W3, W5, W7, and W9 for them because I want them to be black bears, but I don't want them to be so dark that you can't see the features. I don't want their faces to get lost. So I'm again shading on the outer portion of their bodies. This is also going to help them look a little more rounded in appearance. And I'm just keeping the lighter portion for the middle of their face there. so it's still nice and visible. And I'm using my darks really sparingly and saving the majority, especially on the face, for that lightest highlight. So I just colored in the little baby bear, and now I'm going to move on to the larger bear. So I'm just shading under the head and around the arms on both sides, because the arms would cast shadows wherever they lay. And then also around the feet, just to give them some definition as well. A little bit around their face and the top of their heads. So I'm just going to bring down the W7 and blend out that W9 a bit. Still not going too far out, just, you know, like I said, keeping the majority light, but I want them to definitely look black and not gray. So, you know, you do need a bit of that dark in there so that it, you know, all works together to give the illusion of a black bear. So I finished with the W7. I'm moving on to the W5. I'm going to finish coloring in their arms and just leave kind of a round portion on the middle of the belly, because the belly would be kind of protruding, and then again on the face. And for that, I will just finish up with the W3 as my lightest color. Just make sure to really blend everything out really well. And then with the R20, I'm going to color in the ears of the three bears that are facing forward and also give them some rosy cheeks. I'll use R22, R24, and R29 to color in my apples. So I'm starting with the R29 and just casting a shadow on the right side. I'm also going to color in my mushroom cap the same way. So I'll blend out the R29 with the R24, just carrying that color about halfway across, and just being careful on the mushroom cap to avoid the little polka dots, which I want to keep white. And then I'm going to fill in the remaining space with the R22. At first I thought I was going to add the R20 as well, but I decided to go ahead and just fill it in. I thought that was maybe a little bit too much for such a small little area. I'm using YG95 and YG97 to color in the leaves of my little apple. And then I'm going to throw the YG93 into the mix as well when I color in the wine bottle. I'll use my favorite shade of all, the BG10, to color in my flowers. I want them to look white, so I'm just adding a bit of shading, and also to the two glasses and the polka dots on the top of the mushroom cap. And then for the bucket with the fish, I'm using C1, C3, and C5. So I'm going to color darkest to lightest towards the center because I want it to look like a round metal bucket. So I'm just saving that center for the highlight, and then just adding a little bit more of that C5 as it wasn't quite dark enough to have enough contrast for me. I used YR14, YR16, and YR18 to color in the little pumpkin. I wanted to have some different things on the table that would be at a fall picnic for bears. So I figured some fruits and the pumpkin and the fish, and then I threw in the wine and the cheese and the bread for good measure. YG95 for the pumpkin stem. And then Y13, Y15, and Y17 for the cheese. So I'm using the Y17 for the shadow, the Y15 to kind of almost fill everything in, and then the Y13 for just the very tip and then the little holes on the Swiss cheese. I'm also going to use the Y15 to just dot in some tiny centers into my flowers. For the fish, I wanted something kind of peach toned to work with the warmer color scheme that I've got going here. And so I used the R02 and the YR01 in combination. They weren't quite dark enough for me though, so I added in the YR04. But that made it a little too orange, so I went back to the R22 that I'd used in the apples. And that combination of colors was a little bit more what I was going for. To finish things up, I'm going to use the E51, E53, and E55 to color in my baguette. And then I'm also going to take the E53 and the E51 and just add a bit of shading to either side of the top of my stump that's going to become my picnic table. And then I'll just die cut everything with the matching dies. I've die cut my sky with the stitched rectangle stackables, the bushes with the puffy cloud borders, and then the grass with the grassy borders, all from Lawn Fawn. So I'm just going to take some Tombow Mono multi-glue and adhere these down. I'm going to add a little bit to the back of my grass first and just lay that down, but I'm not going to put any adhesive at the top of the grass because I want to be able to slide my hills in, and I want them to be as high as they possibly can, so that way I can just kind of slip them in and just hide the very bottom edge of that behind the grass. I'll take my tree stump table and make sure that I have that nice and centered exactly where I want it, so I have room on all the sides for the bears that I'm going to add. So first is this little guy who's missing the bottom half of his body. He's going to get tucked in the back there with his arms hanging over the table. And then I'm going to add the largest of the two black bears down on the left-hand side there. The baby bear is so little that he wouldn't be able to reach the table on his own, so he's going to get the little mushroom or toadstool to sit on, and then I'll just add him right on top of that. For some of the smaller elements, I sometimes find it easier to just add the glue directly to the project if I know exactly where I'm going to put them. So I've done that and added the little pumpkin, and then I'm going to add the apple in there as well, and then the little flower arrangement to make the table look nice and pretty. Since I'm using liquid glue, I can still adjust anything I need to until that dries and sets permanently. On the left side of the table, I'm going to add our little bucket of fish, and then I'm also going to add our bread and cheese and wine. And then I'll add a little extra glue to the bear in the back so that I can tuck that extra fish right under his paw. I'm going to give the big black bear the extra apple to hold so that I can carry those pops of red all across the card front. And then the last two elements for the table are the two glasses. So I'll just add one over on the left and then kind of tuck one over behind the flowers on the right. And then last but not least, I'm going to add my backward facing bear so that he looks like he's just coming up to the table to join the picnic. For my sentiment, I grabbed the set Dad Plus Me, and I stamped out Have a Berry Amazing Day with some Lawn Fawn chili pepper ink, and then I die cut that with one of the Lawn Fawn Everyday Sentiment banners. And I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that down at the top of our focal panel there, just making sure that's nice and straight. For the inside of my card, I'm going to take the large bear and the fish bucket from the Berry Happy Holidays, and then another sentiment from the Dad Plus Me, and I'm going to stamp that in some Lawn Fawn dough ink on the inside of my card. And this is some oatmeal cardstock, so it's got some nice little flecks into it that look really nice with this color of ink. To assemble my card, I've die cut my pattern papers with the largest of the Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle stackables, and I'm going to add some more glue to the back of my pattern paper. It has this nice kind of cuts of tree stumps there that look really cool and goes with the theme of our card there. So I'm just going to adhere that flat to the entire card front. And then I've got a strip of some plaid pattern paper that I thought looked like a picnic blanket. So I'm just going to adhere that right over top in the center of the card. So it'll have that little bit of red plaid kind of poking out from either end. I've added some Scotch 3M foam tape to the back of my focal panel, and now I'll just make sure that that's lined up straight. and then I can press that down into place. As a finishing touch, I'm going to take my favorite color of stickles. This is the Crystal, and I love it because it kind of takes on the color of whatever you put it over, so it matches everything. And I'm just going to dab it here and there on a couple of different things. I've added it to the glasses, I've added it to the fish in the bucket, and the one that's in the little bear's paw, and the apples, and the wine bottle. But I just added it sparingly. I don't like to cover something completely. I like to use stickles as an accent, so it just kind of catches your eye in the light. And I'll go ahead and pick that up for you guys and kind of hold it under my desk lamp so that you can get a better idea of how that looks. I think it's super pretty. And that is going to complete our card for today. There's another look at the inside with our little punny sentiment. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this teddy bear picnic card. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Like I said, this was one I'd been wanting to do for a really long time. Here's an extra couple videos that may also interest you, and you can always click on my photo to subscribe to my channel or click the notification bell if you want to be sure that my videos always end up in your feed. I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye-bye.